Just the latest then, the update on the spy. This is Yang Tengbo, that's the name, now being named, the alleged Chinese spy banned from the UK and linked to the Duke of York. Said he's done nothing wrong or unlawful, adding in a statement that the widespread description of me as a spy is entirely untrue. So he's having none of it. The order to name him was lifted at the Royal Court of Justice amid growing expectations that an MP, it was thought that it could be Reform's Richard Tice, would have named him in Parliament. And if that had been the case, then of course he would have, under parliamentary privilege, would have been allowed to do that. But I sort of sense that the protocol, the Speaker and others would not be best. They don't want to create best practice, I think, under this. So the decision has been made to name him. There it is. Let's move then to what is happening with Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, revealing that there is no set timeline for cutting migrant boat crossings in the English Channel. This, of course, is a key issue in the ongoing immigration debate. Speaking out amidst rising concern over the government's handling of the crisis, Yvette Cooper acknowledged the complexity of the situation, stressing that the current levels are far too high and it's clearly a priority for the government, she says. Well, how much of a priority? Joining me to discuss this, migration expert, former MEP and director for the Centre of Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Woolfe, is with us. Stephen, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon, Ian. Good afternoon. Nice to have you with us. I find it strange, and I'm sort of going slightly over old ground here in terms of what we've talked about a number of times on this, that Yvette Cooper and the Labour government don't appear to really have this in their heart. Let's put it that way. I don't sense this is really up there.
No, I think you're very right. And when Yvette Cooper says that the numbers are too high, that they are dangerous, we agree with the words. But I think in many ways she's taking us for fools. Taking us for fools because we don't really believe, having looked at the record so far and the impetus that the government has not put towards immigration, that we actually believe that they will try to bring the numbers down. It's never been in their DNA. Yep. Prior to the elections, they challenged the Conservative Party, and particularly Rishi Sunak, over the Rwanda operation and the Illegal Migration Act. So they got form in really opposing any deterrence. And so far, everything that they've suggested, closer ties with the European Union, setting up a new command structure, is not about deterrence, it's about managing the currently extreme, or in the words of Yvette Cooper, too high situation. Yeah.
What is their, I mean, realistically, what are their options? They keep talking about smashing the gangs, and we even put a montage together, because between Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper and goodness knows who else, they'd said it so many times, Stephen, that it seemed extraordinary that they could keep repeating this, but nothing of any substance really happening, but failing to, address the cold face of the problem, which is that hundreds of people on a daily basis, we've had record numbers for this time of year as well in the last 7 days, are still making that journey in their hundreds. We got nearly 40,000, between 30 and 40,000 this year since Starmer came to power. I mean, it's a grim picture. It's a catastrophe. We read it so often, we've almost just resigned to the fact that we see these headlines and no longer seem to react. But it is huge. What specifically could Yvette Cooper do to literally stop a single boat crossing the Channel again?
OK, well, there are a number of things that we think we've been considering as different options for them. Point one is the obvious, that they have a disagreement with France and just enable our border force and, or in particular, the Navy, if you could persuade the defence to actually do their job and return the boats to France. That'd be stage one. Stage two would be to look at the countries where most of the people are coming from, and many of them do receive foreign aid distributions from the UK government, and we could link the returns policy to foreign aid. If you do not accept everybody that fails an asylum application in this country, we will return them, and if you don't, then we will stop providing you with any aid whatsoever. And that's particularly important because there are those like India, for example, China, and then you have the bigger countries. We've just given 50 million to Syria, and yet we have huge numbers of those who have failed their asylum applications here. So that would be another big stage. I think re-engaging with the Rwanda policy would be another deterrent, and strengthening the enforcement team, giving them much more money, is just in the way that Stephen Miller has proposed for Donald Trump. And what is going to happen with their new border czar is that deterrence with deportations is going to be a very, very strong part of their policy. We should do that. But I doubt for a minute, though, Ian, that's the problem. It's not in the DNA of the Labour Party. They believe that they could absorb as many people coming in, and let's deal with the consequences by allowing Yvette Cooper to tax everybody out of existence.
Yeah. It's funny where they got 50 million quid from all of a sudden, because, you know, the last time I looked, we couldn't even help pensioners heat their homes. But somehow we've produced, you know, 50 longans out of the grass. God knows how. It's a miracle, as they say. Where do you think this story might be in a year's time, Stephen? I mean, I know where the obvious instinctive money goes on this, but, you know, these crossings cannot continue at this kind of rate. And we also have the big backlog to deal with as well. Where will we be in 12 months from now?
I don't want to be the kind of man of doom at Christmas. I love Christmas. I want it to be a period of joy and happiness, particularly for children. But with Ian, I can't possibly say for 1 minute that we're going to see a reduction in the numbers coming forward. And that's because when you look at the European border agencies and Interpol, they are predicting another 400,000 people coming across the eastern and the western Mediterranean routes into Europe. And if those level of numbers will continue into next year, we're going to see again numbers of 35,000 plus coming across the channel. It's a non-stop. And I think finally, even the government's Office of National Statistics and OBR have factored in housing costs and hotels for the next 5 years at an estimated cost of 40 billion. So they don't believe it's going to be reduced either.
Stephen, it's always a pleasure. Thank you. Stephen Woolfe, migration expert. He's a former MEP as well.